Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TruthWorks. I'm Jessica Neal, your host. And today I'm here with a very special guest who I'm excited to have on the show, who I just know we're going to have so much to talk about and we have so much in common. But Michael Bose, welcome to the show. Let me tell you a little bit about Michael. Michael is the Chief People Officer at Estée Lauder. And Estée Lauder is one of those iconic companies, iconic brands. Tell us a little bit about Estée Lauder, because everybody knows Estée Lauder.
Yeah.
I know Estée Lauder.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it as, women's makeup, but I know that it's much more than
Yeah.
that. You guys have a very, very large business. You don't just do makeup and,
Right.
products for women.
Right.
You are a large company of cosmetics
Yes.
and I think expand all over the world.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about Estee Lauder. But also, I just want to say you were promoted to be the Chief People Officer, I think, last year,
Yes. April of
April. Yeah.
2025.
So
Yep.
almost a year in the role.
Yes. Almost. Yeah.
Almost. So we're going to talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
So,
Great.
and erase my childhood
Yeah.
memories that are
That's
not,
fine. No, I'm sure there are good ones. Actually, probably the other memory that you have is Clinique 3-Step, which
yes.
is, so that's an Estee Lauder brand,
Okay.
started by,
That
yep,
was so Clinique was the first makeup I ever
of
got.
course. And the first skincare routine and the first sort of
Yes.
sense of like, oh, I'm going to do this in a
And
ritual
it's the
way.
lotion and
Yes,
it's that
dramatically different.
yellow.
Yeah,
Yes.
dramatically different moisturizer. Still one of the most popular moisturizers on the market 70, 60 years later. So Estee Lauder is, as you said, large portfolio company, company of many brands, but started with a female founder in her kitchen in Queens. Mrs. Estee Lauder, really sort of made her initial creams and scents in her kitchen and then sold them to department stores in New York. So really started as a real founder brand who
How
then
long was she involved in the business?
all the way up until the 2000s. So,
Wow.
I think obviously differently. And then her son, uh, Leonard, became the CEO and really oversaw the expansion of the company and oversaw the development of the Clinique brand as a secondary brand. And then obviously we acquired MAC, which is one of the most famous makeup
Yep.
brands, and Bobby Brown and Joe
Yep.
Malone London fragrances. And
Love me some Joe
yeah,
Malone.
oh, good. Yes, this
Yeah.
beautiful fragrance brand. And so it really, over the years, grew into a portfolio of amazing, uh, really only prestige and luxury brands. La Mer, the skincare brand that you may know, is
Yep.
one of our brands. It was developed um, with a scientist in part in our labs in Melville, Long Island, which we
Mm,
still have today.
yes.
So
I love La Mer and it's I just wish it wasn't as expensive as it is.
yes.
I'll only buy it at duty
It's a
free.
treat. Ah, yes. Well, that is, I mean, when we talk about the shape of our business, I can tell you that, uh, travel retail is a huge part of our business. It's a way that we recruit consumers. It's a way that consumers can access our brands. It gives us, I mean, it's a multi-billion-dollar business for us now, travel retail, just that channel alone.
Yeah,
In Asia, if you travel to Asia,
I do.
the airports are like the greatest
Amazing.
shopping malls on
But
earth.
it's actually so smart
Yeah,
because
sure, you're a
what else
captive
are you
audience.
yeah, what else are you gonna do
Yeah,
there?
that's
You're
right.
gonna walk around and
That's
shop,
right. That's right.
and you get all the tax advantages,
That's right.
right?
Hmm.
So whenever
Yeah.
I buy big purchase items, it's always
Yeah.
at an
In the
airport
yeah.
or, or overseas.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So Estee Lauder, as I said, is multi-category. We have Aveda, the hair care, the vegan hair care brand,
Yeah, love
and it,
Aveda.
has a history of finding brands, nurturing them, helping them grow, working with founders, and really trying to deliver something special to the consumer, whether it's efficacy from a skincare standpoint or representation from a makeup standpoint, like MAC. But
Mhm.
at a core, a female entrepreneur who built a business from nothing while raising a family. I mean, that
Mm.
is who we are
And that DNA is still in the company today.
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
how does it how does it play out? How do you
yeah.
feel that in the company?
I mean, first of all, we are 87% women worldwide. So,
Wow.
and a large percentage of that is our sales force that are at
Sure.
counters and all of those things you see. But even our corporate population is 70% women, and
Wow.
our executive team of VP and above is in the 60%. So we are really a sort of female represented organization that helps us um, sort of think of the market in a different way.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's kinda it makes sense too because I think that, especially at the time that, the company was founded, to have a woman
yeah,
founder at that time was kinda
yeah,
unheard of, right?
that's right.
Not many of them.
Mhm.
And then, as you were growing the company, I'm sure other women were able to see a woman in that
Right.
role and say, "Wow,
This is a
I
place where I have a
this
seat
is"
at the
yeah,
table. Right. This is a
right,
place where I
yeah,
can grow. Yeah.
yeah, and so, it's a little harder to do when it's the
Mm.
inverse.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I have to say, you know, uh, I've hired many women, especially into senior roles from outside the company, from different industries, who will say, it's such a change to sit around a leadership team table and not be the only woman or not be one of two, but have it be a much more balanced. The energy is different. The way
oh, yeah,
decisions are made, it is different. And, we
it
see it
is.
as a competitive advantage,
Yeah,
not only because our consumer base is not exclusively women for sure, but predominantly
right,
women, understanding that point of view, thinking about things. And then from an HR perspective, a human perspective, it means, there are elements of the work life kind of proposition that we have to think even more deeply about
yeah.
because we know that our workforce is balancing multiple responsibilities in many cases.
They are, it just is a fact.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
I'm I'm one of them, and, I have been the only woman at the table
Mm,
many a times, and, it got better when there was a number 2, but there weren't more than that a lot of times.
that's right.
But, it's wonderful to see that you have that in the company and hopefully other companies can look at what you're doing and maybe learn from you because you're setting an example, and you don't just have to make predominantly women products to do
To do
this.
that, that's exactly right.
You
Yeah,
can do it without that.
yeah,
Um, and if you think about it, we're half the population, and so half of your consumers are
yeah.
likely us
Well,
anyways.
and in most cases, more than half of the actual spend, right? Who's buying
Yeah,
groceries? Who's buying athletic wear for kids? Who's buying, right? Like, I mean, I know my wife is doing 90% of the shopping in our house just because that's how, she part of keeping the household together. So
yeah,
understanding that, women are at the heart of consumer decision making is incredibly important.
mhm,
And we learned that from our founder who thought very much about how women want to interact with products, want to interact with salespeople. She really pioneered, Mrs. Estee Lauder really pioneered the concept of touch in the sale. So really, applying the cream to someone's hand and rubbing it in and showing in a very visceral and connected way,
yeah,
this is how it's, and I think that's an insight that, you know, cannot, maybe that can't only come, but definitely comes from being a woman who knows how women want to engage in that way and understanding that there's a special way to connect.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, if you're gonna buy these products, you wanna know how they feel, how they
Sure, of
smell, how
course.
they it's so true. Okay, so you have all these iconic brands, and I'm guessing, thousands of people around the world. How many
Yes.
employees are you?
70,000 employees around the
Okay,
world.
70,000. And where are the majority of them?
So our retail population is relatively spread. We have a huge population in China because China is one of our second biggest markets. Obviously, the U.S. as our home market is still our biggest market. We're in 70 plus countries in some way or another. And so we have a big Europe and UK. UK was the second international market we went to. So it's always a very strong place for us. So a lot of it depends on the retail model. Some places are more online driven, and so we have fewer employees there. So, some are more traditional, and we still have a lot of in-store employees. And then our corporate population is about 14,000 with regional centers in the US, of course, in Europe, Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan.
which is very big,
Yes,
and complex. So let's talk about you for a second.
sure.
So you and I were talking earlier, and you were telling me about the new CEO. He's been in the job for a year
A
now.
year.
January is his
Yep.
year anniversary, and then you got tapped
Hmm.
to come into the chief people officer role after that promotion for him,
Yeah.
right? And tell us the story of how that all came about, because you had a whole history before Estee Lauder,
Yeah.
working at Tapestry, which is a very well known organization, and many others. And then you come to Estee Lauder in 2015, and you spend 10 years there, and then they knock on your door and say, "Hey,
Yeah.
do you want to do this job?" So tell
Mhm.
us the story. How did it happen?
So, I mean, the kind of through line of the story going all the way back to the start of my career is iconic American brands. So I worked at Nike, I worked at Saks Fifth Avenue, in Saks Fifth Avenue's better days.
I
So,
know, it's
uh,
so sad.
yeah,
I read that, when it came out, and I love Saks,
mm,
and, but they have not innovated.
yeah, yeah.
They're
I think
just
it's a tough. I mean,
them
the
and
department store
Neiman, they're
channel is
in
tough, right?
yeah, they're Neiman, I think Neiman, I don't know their
Yeah.
financials, but I would say they're likely
Well,
not
they're
far
now
behind.
owned. So actually, Saks bought Neiman's, so they're owned by
Oh,
the
they're
same. Yeah,
together. Oh,
yeah.
I didn't
So
even know that.
that's a
Well, there you go.
compounding.
Then they're
Yeah, it's a
they're on the
compounding
chopping
of
block too.
problems.
But I think it's like they're not other brands that are still elite, expensive, have figured out a way to be accessible
Yeah.
to more than just the people that can afford them. And I think Saks, in my opinion, has done a good job at that.
Right. Has lost that. Yeah, I
Hmm.
agree. I mean, I have. It's been 25, 30 years since I worked at Saks.
Yeah,
So, they've done a lot of different things since then. But, certainly the concept of luxury and aspiration it evolves because
right.
the nature of it is about the people that have those aspirations, and people change and
Right.
generations change, and what people get excited about and what people feel good about and are looking for changes.
Yeah.
And the ones that survive and adapt are the ones from a brand perspective or a retailer perspective are the ones that know that and are
Yeah.
have a core that they stay true to, but also know how to evolve
Right.
with their consumer, with the zeitgeist, and with sort of how people are seeing the world. And luxury is one of those things that's really changed a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and how to excite those consumers is really different. But I really love the concept of iconic American brands. I worked at Tommy Hilfiger and
Yeah.
Nike,
I mean, you've
and so
done them
that was
all.
always yeah. I know, yeah, I'm older than I look because of our great product. Uh, so but I always had this, and always within different functions in HR. And when I was at Coach, and which became Tapestry, was when I really found talent as the sort of core. I had been an HR generalist, which was more typical at the time, and I had done a lot of the different functions of HR. But then at Tapestry, I really discovered that, that's what I love is the talent piece, is finding the right people, making sure they're positioned to be the best possible version of themselves that they can be, uh, making sure that the organization is structured in the way to get the best value from that investment that it's making in the talent that I really loved, and thinking strategically about the growth of the business and where it was headed and what it was going to need from a capability standpoint, and how do you ensure you have the right talent strategy to do that. So when I shifted to Estee Lauder companies after doing a brief stint, as we talked about before, in kind
Headhunting.
of headhunting, so executive search,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um, I came in a talent role, and that's what I did for almost 10 years before I was, because it was a month before my 10-year anniversary that I was appointed to the chief people officer. And I was in essentially the same job for most of that time. And I loved it because we were in growth mode and we were expanding and we were bringing new capabilities in. So talent was at the top of the agenda. So that was great. And I got to work with great people and bring great people into the company and help them grow. But it also meant that when it became time to think about who would be the next chief people officer, I had all of those relationships with the executive team. I had, built credibility with them as it relates to kind of, who I was and how I do things. And so that was hugely helpful. And I participated in the CEO succession
Oh,
conversation.
oh, so
So
you're
I
part of
had
that.
so I had been a part of that, not leading it. Of course, the incumbent CHRO led that process with the CEO and the board, but I was involved. And so, I was part of
Pretty
the
fascinating, huh?
discussions. Yeah, fascinating, and positioned me to be a candidate for the role when it became available.
Right. So did you know you were a candidate, or did they just come to you and say,
Uh
"Guess what?"
I think I knew,
Okay.
at least that I was part of the consideration. And I'll be honest, now I told you at the beginning that I was an open book, so now I'll be really open book.
Okay.
I wasn't 100% sure that I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean here, but I was
In general.
never, yeah, I was not one of those HR people who was like, I must get to a CHRO. That just wasn't my motivation. My motivation
Yeah.
was always the work and the cool things that I wanted to do, and great brands that I wanted to work with. But I really love talent. I would have been, okay continuing to do that. But
Yeah,
what,
that's probably why you got it.
yeah,
So
maybe, right? It's like, right. But the other thing was, truthfully, I believed in Stefan. I mean, it sounds very, who became the CEO. It sounds very trite, or I'm not sure what, but the reality is I believed in his vision. I believed in what he thought the company, he had, had very similar ideas about what we thought needed to change and evolve and what needed to stay the same. And so again, it became for me less about the title and more about the work, right? Like I was
right.
really excited about the work that we could do together, our belief in the company and the power of the brands, and so the fact that, because by the way, I took this job over in the middle of a massive restructure of
Mm,
over $1 billion restructuring
wow.
program, thousands of people in impacted across the globe. So it wasn't a fun time to take the
No.
job, right? It wasn't the time that I was going to be, rolling out amazing programs and doing, you know,
Yeah, doing the hard stuff.
yeah, but I believe in this portfolio of brands and the idea that I could play a role in positioning them for the future. And we're in our 80-year anniversary this year, and the idea that I could
Ah,
play a
80 years,
role, 80
amazing.
years, yeah,
Yeah.
in positioning this company for another 80 years, uh, was was the hook. Wasn't the
Yeah,
title, wasn't the, I mean,
it was the
compensation is always
transformation.
important, right? But it was the
Sure.
chance to do, yeah, I would be lying,
Doesn't
but
hurt. It doesn't
yeah.
hurt.
But truthfully, it was about the opportunity to do something really amazing with this iconic set of brands, and this amazing company.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it because
Yeah,
that, e- every company needs to evolve,
sure.
and that's just part of the job, right? And you don't make it for 80 years unless you're doing that,
Yes.
and you don't make it for the next 80 years unless you're doing that. So talk to us a little bit about just you and Stefan thinking about the things that needed to change, and
Yeah.
what is the vision, like
I
how
think.
do
Yeah.
you have operating culture with 70,000 people around the world that scales and works.
Yeah. So I think the step one, which, again, the advantage of Stefan also being someone who is elevated within the company is that he knew what
You
the
guys get
issues
it. You,
were.
like,
Yeah,
have the context. Yeah.
he knew the culture, he knew. So very quickly, it starts with he just had a business strategy that made sense so that there
Mhm.
was a kind of, okay, here's a plan. It has 5 pillars. It's very clear. Everyone in the organization immediately it's called Beauty Reimagined because, we're a marketing company, so everything has to be branded.
Yeah, of course.
But,
I like that.
yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, but everybody immediately understood, okay, yes, we need to be where the consumers are. That's what we need to invest in consumer facing. We need to have innovation at the core. These things all, and then what are the real tactics behind this that are going to change? So it starts with a business strategy that makes
Mhm.
sense, right?
Mhm.
And then you do all of the work of like, so what parts of our culture support this? What parts of our culture need to evolve because they're going to work against our ability to execute this strategy? And you start with the executive team to think through those things.
Mhm.
And we talk about roots and anchors, right? What are the roots that help us and we want to keep and nurture, but what are the anchors that are holding us back from moving, and how do you see the difference between those so that you can evolve in the right places and maintain values and culture in the right places? And so for us, it landed on a sort of series of commitments that
Mm.
we are making as an organization around how we're going to operate that we think are going to help us sort of make that next cultural evolution. And so it's just things like, I mean, one of my favorites is, we say yes, and it's a simple thing, but when I joined this company, there were a lot of people who felt their job was to protect. There's a very deep sense of protection of the brands.
Mhm.
And over time, that started to translate into no. So
Right.
my job is to say no. My job is
Right.
to protect by saying no. And so really saying, we say yes. Our job is to say yes. Is our,
Yeah.
our job is to find ways to do these things, not ways to stop them.
Right.
Um, we need to operate like one team. When you get big and complex, and I'm sure Netflix, I know you went from, Netflix, which was still
Yeah.
kind of scrappy, to a
Yeah, we were
Netflix that
like
was
200
huge.
and yeah,
Yeah,
250
yeah.
salary to 10,000, but not 70,000. I mean,
No, but
that's
still,
yeah. Yeah.
10,000 is a lot. And when you do that, you start to build silos and you build
Oh,
functions and you
yeah.
do all the things. And then suddenly, this company that could easily kind of galvanize around one idea and act like one team has a harder time doing that. And
Mhm.
so for us, it was like really saying, we're one team. We have one set of goals. If one wins, we all win.
Mhm. Right.
And so we changed the compensation design to match that, to better reinforce. So it's a lot of things that you look at and say, there's amazing things about this culture that we want to keep. There are great things about this culture we want to evolve.
Right.
And what are the things that we can do to do those?
Yeah. But it is, having sat in your seat, it is very hard to get people to change behavior.
Yeah.
And so are you finding that uh challenging or, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of course it's
Yeah.
challenging.
'Cause you can't,
But
I mean, you and I both know, like, you could say, "Be a team. We're one team.
yeah, operate this
Today,
way. Yeah,
we
that's
are
right.
one team, okay,
Uh,
everybody?" But that doesn't mean that
yeah.
they're gonna actually
Yeah.
do it.
No.
So, how do you
Uh,
get them to do it?
so I mean, some of them are things like incentive design,
Mhm.
right? So
Right.
this is going to shock you, but when we looked at our annual bonus, we had over 1,000 different calculations
Mm,
for how it was paid because it was so kind of based on individual business units. And so if you were running this brand in this country, you were paid on a different bonus than. And so we said, nope, there's 9 different business units and that's it. And
right.
so, everybody is kind of rowing in the same direction and winning or losing on the same metrics.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're just, like you were saying, you're sort of getting into the diagnostics of
right,
where the complexity is and where the
right.
tension is, and you're
That's right.
removing the friction.
That's right. And
Right.
galvanizing everyone around this idea of one team,
Mhm.
right? And this idea that, and it also then freed us up to make more strategic choices in your daily operational management because now you can shift money around if you're a business leader in a different way because you're not constrained by the impact you might have on someone's ability to deliver their bonus.
Right.
Um, so suddenly it was like, no, I want you to make a decision from an enterprise mindset. What is best for the enterprise is best for everyone.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we had gotten away from that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's hard to get back to it, but I'm glad
Yeah,
you guys are. Um, so
it's a journey.
it's,
It's not perfect.
it's always a journey
Yeah.
and nothing's ever perfect. So, I wanna know how you're liking the role because, having been in the role, and
Uh-huh.
this is something that, folks on that listen to the podcast have heard me say, I think it is the hardest role in the C-level, okay? It can be very lonely, and there's all kinds of things that you have to do, like, of course, the HR strategy and the talent strategy, but then you're the chief medical officer and the chief diversity officer, and you're the COO for many, many
Yeah.
things,
Mhm.
almost for the whole organization. And now you're the chief AI strategist, which, congratulations on that
The new
promotion.
yeah.
Yeah. and and then the other, massive headwind that I think that this role has that others don't is because it is people focused and you have all these people in the organization, everyone thinks that they can do your job because they've worked at another company where they did
Right.
this or,
They hire someone for their team or they do,
yes.
performance
Yeah.
management for their
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
nobody questions, the chief,
Right.
product officer or marketing officer or financial officer as much as they question the chief people officer.
Right.
And so I just think it's a very complicated role.
Yeah.
It can be magical and like the impact can be massive, but it's hard. So how are you
Yeah.
doing? How are you enjoying it? Is it what you thought it was
Mm,
going to be or is it
yeah.
different?
And so, first of all, it's a great question. The only thing I kind of laugh is, everybody thinks they can do your job until you do something really difficult in HR, and then everyone tells you how much they are
Uh,
so glad they don't
yeah.
have your job, right?
Yeah.
Until you've
Glad I don't
dealt with
have to do
this,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've dealt with this very difficult person or this very difficult situation, and suddenly it's everybody tells you they're glad they don't have your job. But
Yeah.
the day to day, for sure, everyone thinks they can
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's it's much like I thought it would be, and then there are ways that it's dramatically different. I think the loneliness part, which often gets talked about, uh, is really true. You cannot there. There is almost no one at the company that you can engage with in the same way that you could when you were in a different role. You can't
Yeah.
commiserate in the same way with people. You can't you
You can't vent.
can't vent in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
You also can't just capitulate to your CEO in the way maybe you can in other roles, right? Because your
Right.
job is to help them often see things that they don't see or see things differently. And so you in some at least again in how I've observed it, to do it well, you have to have some of the highest levels of courage
Mhm.
in dealing with your CEO. The other thing that no one sort of fully prepares you for is the board and
Yeah.
the board dynamics. And suddenly, it's like there's this whole organization that you thought you knew everyone and everything, and then suddenly there's this whole new group that has a lot of say in a very
And
kind of
opinions.
and opinions, and
Yeah.
you have to figure them out in a very different way, and that is for sure challenging. And then for us, we are a family majority share company. So I not
Yeah.
only have a board to deal with, but family
Family.
members, and
Right.
that have been very involved in the business in amazing ways. And we're lucky; they're an incredible family, and I've had the great time of working with lots of them. But it is an additional complexity
Right.
uh, that you're kind of navigating. And then you have a whole team and a whole function that's like, what is he doing all day? Because he's not in meetings with us all the time.
I know. I
And,
had,
you
um,
know,
I had a woman from my team at Netflix. She was one of my VPs and she reported to me, and she became the CHRO for Reddit. And then called me one day after she got that job, and she was like, "I'm really sorry.
yeah, yeah,
I
right.
did
I'm sorry,
I
I
did
didn't think
not."
you were doing
Yeah,
anything.
because "I did not appreciate all the things you were doing."
Yeah,
She's like, "I just want you to know how sorry I am if I
yeah,
ever gave you a hard time." And I was like,
it's okay.
"It's okay." But,
You
I
don't
mean,
know
they
until
don't
you know.
know.
You don't
Yeah,
know
they
until you
don't
know.
know.
No, you
And a
don't know.
lot of it you can't share.
No, of course. Well, that's, I think, why, right?
Yeah.
You can't talk about it. You can't, you know, they don't see it. It's not like
Mhm.
other meetings, that happen very visibly. Those meetings often happen in a more
Closed
covert, or,
door.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of not so visible way. And so that part I think is really true. And so I had heard it, but like anything else, until you've actually done it, um, you don't get it. I'm lucky. I have a great relationship with Stefan, and that to me is the most important. If anyone asks my advice about should I take this job as CHRO, my number one thing would be only do it if you feel that level of connection and you feel like you can have the conversations that you need to have and that you have them. That's the
Yeah.
only way.
Because it's so true, and I think, there is high turnover in this role, and I think a lot of it is because of that connection and that chemistry. It has to be there for this to be
Yeah.
successful, and y- it's both of these roles are very complicated, and both of them can be very lonely. Um, the CEO and
Yep.
CHRO,
Oh yeah.
but when you kind of mentioned in this role you have to have a lot of courage, and you're oftentimes the mirror for this person.
For sure.
um they don't always want to hear that
No.
stuff that you're telling them, and when you don't have that connection, then when you're bringing that information feedback, then it's just so much harder, and I think deteriorates whatever relationship there was faster,
Yeah.
you know?
And you also need to know when to let it go. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously not for something that feels valued, so I'm not
you gotta
obviously
pick
that.
the hills.
Yeah, but you got to kind of go, you know what? Not what I would do, but you're the boss. And so then it becomes knowing what are those, how do I mitigate whatever my concerns were to the degree possible? How do I make
Yeah,
them
you
more
gotta know when to
palatable
hold
to the
them
organization? Yeah, you do.
and know when to fold them.
Yeah,
Yep.
you can't fight every battle.
No.
Um, and if you want to maintain that relationship, you have, you know, say what you think. Never, at least not for me, I never hold back on what I think,
Yeah.
but I'm also clear, okay, this decision is made. I am now behind it. I will put
Right.
my name on it. I don't say things like, well, this memo should come from you, not from me, because
Yep.
I didn't agree with this. Nope, we're in
No.
this together. He and I are, and I think that's how you have to
Yeah.
really
You
think
have to
about it.
disagree and
Yeah.
commit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
And we're trying to model that for the entire executive team because I
Yeah.
think that's also super true of high functioning executive leadership teams.
Yeah. Well, just as, you're learning in this role,
Hmm.
he's learning in his
That's
role
right.
too.
That's
And
right.
to learn, he's got to make mistakes.
That's right.
That's how
And
he'll learn.
that's yeah. And that's I mean
And also, you could be wrong.
that's right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
and sure, very often it's an opinion,
Right.
right? And so, like anything else, opinions can differ and can be wrong or can and so I think I try to not have a right or wrong approach to it. I am
Yeah.
usually a sort of like, here's how I see it.
Hmm.
So I'm just helping you see things from different points of view. And
Angles.
yeah, and
Yeah.
here's how I look at it, or here's what stands out to me, which is different because we have different experiences and we have different views of the company. And so together we're both committed to getting to the best answer. We're
Yeah.
both
Yeah. Yeah.
committed to doing the best thing for the organization. I may see things slightly differently because of my view.
Yeah. No. So on the loneliness thing,
Yeah.
you can call me.
Ah, that's
Okay.
good. Yeah.
I'll be there for you. Because one of the things I didn't do when I was in your role because one, I was just so busy. And as I know you are, because it's all the things all the time, 24/7, global company, people all over the world. But I didn't have like that network of people
Yeah,
that were in the same seat doing what I was doing. Um, and so I didn't have the people that I could call.
that
Right.
was
So
especially true for COVID. I mean, I'm
yeah,
sure you felt that
yeah,
because at least what I learned the lesson, I wasn't in this job then, obviously, but I was in a senior HR role, is my predecessor, Michael, also named Michael, was, you know, did have quite a big network. He had come from Pepsi and,
yeah,
and boy, like when we were trying to figure out, what are other people doing about masks and back into all of the stuff that we were all struggling with, he really did have this incredible network of people to call
yeah.
on and say, "What do you guys do?" And so then he could go into conversations with senior leaders and say, "Here's what they're doing at these 5
Right.
companies." And so you're right, it's not easy because you're so busy. Like I wish I had time to go to networking lunches, and I'm like, I wish I had time to eat lunch.
Right.
Uh,
No, you don't even have
but
time to eat lunch. You don't
yeah,
even have time to go to the bathroom.
yeah,
You're just
so
like, "Man,
sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be very distracted during this meeting if you don't give me a 5-minute break
I
before
need
it
a 5-minute
starts. So
break." Yeah,
you
I know.
choose, but my leg will be shaking, and I will,
Right. Right. You choose what you want.
yeah. What do you want?
Um, yeah, so but listen, call me in all
Yes, thank
seriousness.
you.
If you
No,
if you
that's
ever
what you
need
need.
anything,
Yeah,
you can call me. Well, let's talk about some fun stuff because,
yeah, fun. Yeah, that's good.
so, we talk about this all the time in the show because it's just everybody's talking about it.
Mhm.
But I do think that there is major things to consider around AI
Yeah,
when it comes to right now and when it comes to work and if you're an organization that's not leaning in, you're
you're
kind of behind the
you're
times.
leaning out.
You're leaning out. But there's some that are still kind of, not sure
Yeah,
about this whole AI thing. But tell us about what you guys are doing and how you're
yeah,
approaching it and maybe some of the changes that
mhm,
you're seeing with
yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah. So first of all, and it's funny because I have been doing a kind of listening tour around the organization, and so I've been in many countries, kind of talking to groups of employees, and they ask very kind of anxiety-driven questions about AI and what does it mean. And the first thing I say is what I say to myself every day: AI is a tool. It's a tool, and so like any tool that comes along that's better than previous tools, there's a period of time when you have to adjust to it and figure out what it means and figure out how it changes what you do, whether it's, when the wheel was invented or the axle that, like any
Yeah.
new tool, there's, and the story I've told. So when I was at Saks Fifth Avenue in the early 90s, and we had draftsmen, right? We had draftsmen that did, plans for new stores and new fixtures and new things. And this thing came out called CAD, which
Yeah.
everybody was like, and so we sort of went to this team of people and said, there's this new thing. Who wants to, like, 2 guys signed up for CAD classes and learned it, and the rest of them said, nope, we're going to keep doing, and 3 years later, those 2 guys were still at,
With the company.
and not because of anything except for they embraced a tool and
Right.
said, "This
Well,
is
they
gonna."
learned it.
Yeah, they learned.
Yeah.
This is gonna. It's not gonna replace me, but it is going to make what
And
I do different.
enhance me.
Enhance it. Hopefully, is enhancing the way
Yeah.
I do it, but it's going to change how I do what I do. And so, I think that's the first thing we have to take to AI is it's a tool, and it is a tool that will help us if leveraged in the right way. That will help us be more efficient. That will help us get rid of some of that work in our day that is, sometimes the least exciting and the least interesting. Like, when the other thing I say to people is think of 10 things that you do pretty regularly, and I will guarantee you the 3 most boring ones, you can think about a way AI could. The 5 that you think are the most fun and the most interesting, AI will probably never replace
Right.
because
Right.
that's what takes the spark of ingenuity that comes from you. That's what takes that's what takes the thing that you bring that can be. But if you had these other tasks that were made easier and faster and, then you could spend more time
Mhm.
on that thing that you love and that thing that really requires the spark. So that we are thinking about it. in that way, right? So we're
Mhm.
thinking about embedding it in every part of the organization, right? So if, I saw a quote from, I'm sure someone from the tech world basically saying, if you're not looking at how AI can change your job and what you do and then you're not thinking about it in the right way at all. And
Right.
so we are thinking about AI as part of every single job and task in the organization, but more from an efficiency, speed, how can it deliver faster value to consumers? The heart of the Beauty Reimagined strategy is consumers first and putting consumers at the center of everything we do. And so we think about how is AI helping us deliver faster results to consumers, better
Yeah, I mean,
results
and
to
if you think
consumers.
about the possibility with that, it's
Yeah,
so exciting
right. It's
because
exciting.
from matching your color
Right,
to seeing what
right,
it's I mean, and there's, the stuff that's out there today isn't that great, in
right.
terms of like how you
Oh, in
can
terms of
like
those
try.
experiential
Yeah,
things.
those
Yeah,
but if you think about it in 5, 10 years, they're gonna be really
right.
great, right?
Yeah,
And you're gonna be able to like try on the makeup
right.
online.
Well,
Yeah,
and for us, it goes all the way further upstream in the R&D process to things like how is AI helping you test products faster, get
right.
results faster, so that suddenly what, was a sort of laborious process of bringing a new innovation to market can be speeded up because some of these things can just be done much faster by
Well, yeah, and you
AI.
already have
Right.
the research.
Right. That's right.
Right, so, like, a lot of
Um,
times, like, you don't even have the data or the research, so everybody's kinda starting from
that's a scratch. Right.
scratch, yeah,
Yeah.
but you
And
can
we
go
take,
say, like, "Oh, we have all the chemistry for
right.
this type of product. This is
That's
the
right.
stuff that worked,
And
this
we
is the
know
stuff
how
that
this
didn't."
works, and we know how,
Yeah,
right, we know what this active does, and we know what this, so so that's super interesting. The other thing, is we have 80 years in some cases of consumer insights.
yeah,
We have been collecting data on consumers who use beauty products for 80 years, and AI can help us mine that data
yeah,
in a
yeah,
different way for a whole new level of insight, a whole new level of understanding of how people think about our products and our brands. And so again, that unleashes exciting things. It doesn't
mhm,
it doesn't block you. It
right,
unlocks you into doing, really incredible work.
yeah. No, it's, I mean, I kinda got goosebumps when you said that because, I mean, like, you have 80 years of data
Yeah, it's incredible.
on consumer
Right.
data, which is and then you think about how that's going to propel you. I
Hmm.
mean,
That's
it's
right.
just it's fascinating because there's not many companies that have 80 years of
That's
consumer
right.
insights.
That's right. And on a very specific, because again, while we're in all of the categories, major categories within the sector, we're only prestige. So, we're not looking at, mass consumers and what, so it's like
Yeah.
there's enough focus. So there's breadth and depth that I think makes us unique in this
Mhm.
industry in terms of because of competitors like L'Oreal are doing obviously mass as well as prestige. And for us, it's very focused, but broad enough for us to have real insight.
Yeah. Well, I just as a consumer, I have a question.
Yeah, of course.
Competitive
I love
because you brought
I'm
up you
happy to talk about product, except for I'm better
because
with
you
skincare than makeup because I
that's
use
fine.
a lot of skincare. Okay, good. Yeah,
We're
good.
gonna go
Then I'm
skincare.
better. Yeah.
I was gonna ask because there's this whole K beauty
Uh-huh. Yeah.
like phenomenon that's
Yeah.
happening. Like how are you all approaching that? And
Yeah. So one of
because
our
I'm a consumer of both, yours as well as a lot of K beauty
well,
products.
one of our brands is a K beauty brand, Dr. Jart.
I
So
use Dr. Jart. I
so
did
if you
not know
use that,
that was
yes. So
yours.
that's
Oh,
so obviously one of the things that we look at is we don't while we are obviously an American company, we don't think about our portfolio as sort of only coming from the West and going to the
hmm,
East. We're looking because obviously over the last 7 or so years, there has been a real shift of beauty trends coming from the East and
hmm,
traveling west. We used to be very much one way. It
right,
was like Europe and the US and then China and Asia and Japan were picking them up. Now it's much more both ways. And
right.
so, how we think about competing with that is in one part is expanding our portfolio to include those kinds of those kinds of brands that have the authentic K beauty heritage and positioning. It's also taking a brand like The Ordinary. If you know The Ordinary, that's one of our
Yep.
brands, and thinking, okay, how does this serve a consumer who's looking for a similar thing? How do we kind of leverage these trends? We also have a whole research and development center in China that is looking at, kind of Eastern trends and
Hmm.
translating them into our various products, not only because we have a big business in China in general, and so we want to make product there for that consumer, but also because, again, we see this trend of East to West.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you're looking for people to test your
Test, you're
products,
you're
you just send
you're
them my
in.
way.
You're
I
in.
will
We'll send you
test.
the cryo mask. Have you done the
Oh
Dr.
yeah.
Jart cryo mask?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, I
that's the
have.
great.
I will
We just had a
I
snow day. Snow days are amazing mask
I
days.
I know they are. We have a snow day here. I'm in Texas, and I
But
have
you
to
had a
tell.
snow day. Did you have a snow day?
Yeah,
Did it
and
melt?
there's, like,
Was it
there's literally no snow on the ground, so and I'm not sure why we can't anyways,
yes?
we couldn't go to school today,
Panic.
but cold weather really shuts down
Yes.
Texas, and in Texas's defense, we do have some icy patches that are still
Yes.
around, that I
Yes.
think we could have managed to
Probably. Yeah.
go to
Yeah.
school, but,
Yeah.
we don't deal with
Better
it
safe
like.
than sorry. That's what
Yes,
you have
better
to
safe
say.
than
Better
sorry.
safe
But
than
my
sorry.
kid has literally been home because he was sick Thursday, Friday,
Oh boy.
and then we had the weekend, which is where the cold front came through. No school on Monday, no
No
school
school.
today. So 2 days. I I don't he's 6. I'm like,
Six.
you have
Yeah.
to get out of this house." Like,
Yeah. Get out. Do something. Yes.
but it's like 20
Fresh
degrees
air.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 20 degrees, so I can't
Oh,
really
he can
send
handle it.
him.
He can
Yeah, he
handle
can
it. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll
He'll be
toughen him
okay.
up. He's
He'll be
going
okay.
outside. It's
Yeah.
sunny. It's not
Yeah, that's good.
cloudy.
That's all that
Yeah,
matters. But no,
yeah,
you have to get them out. That's
yeah. He's
you can't
he
stay
goes like
cooped
this,
up.
he goes when I told him we got the email from school, I'm like, guess what, honey?
Uh-huh.
You're gonna be happy you don't have school tomorrow." And he's like, "Yeah, this is a yay for me and a boo-hoo for
For
you."
you.
I was like,
You
"It is
remember
a boo."
listening to the radio? We had to listen to the radio when I was
Oh,
a kid
yeah,
in
yeah,
upstate New York,
yeah,
and they would read the school districts by in alphabetical order, and you'd sort of
yeah.
like, come on, come on.
"Please,
Yes.
please." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he's like, "It's a
Now we
yay
just go
from
on
me."
Zoom. Now there's no
Yeah,
now there's
just
no snow days anymore.
oh, yeah, because they do the Zooming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's in
So if he's lucky,
kindergarten
tell him he's
still.
lucky he didn't have that one. Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
He's
I can't
lucky.
imagine, like, I think about through COVID, thinking of COVID, like, all the people that had, like, kindergartners on Zoom.
Oh, I don't know how people did it. No,
I
I
don't
had
either.
teenagers, and that was tough enough.
Right, yeah, but at least that,
Yeah, I had
like
high schoolers, but they
but,
just
like, a
went there. Yeah,
kindergartner on Zoom all d like,
I
it just doesn't work.
I don't know.
Anywho, okay, so I I just a couple of things that we always ask our guests to do because we're
Yeah,
kind of running out of time. So, and I forgot to tell you about these 2 things, but,
okay.
I'm gonna tell you now.
So it's
So,
gonna be really, truly,
it's good, don't
spontaneous.
worry. It's not anything you can't handle, Michael. I have confidence in you. Um, but one is we always ask our guest to leave some advice, something inspirational for our listeners to think about during their week. And then the other thing that we do is we do this thing called career confessions. And
Oh,
so listeners send in work questions and then we give them work advice, which I
okay.
know you can definitely do because
I can do that.
you do it
Yeah,
all day.
yeah. Um, so I will give you. I always tell this is my, and maybe in the days of smartphones, it's no longer the best piece of advice in the world. But everyone always asks, "What's the best piece of advice you ever got?" And I was a young kid complaining about being bored, and my grandmother, who I was super close to, said, always have a book with you, and you will never be bored, and you will never mind waiting, and you will never be fidgety because you will always have something. And I live by that. I never travel anywhere without a book. I was a 19th century literature major in college, so I'm a voracious reader. And so my piece of advice is always, I guess it's evolved to take advantage of those moments that life gives you where you can't do what you meant to do, whether it's because you're stuck commuting or whatever it is, and explore those moments of inactivity and unscheduled and unplanned, and use them to do something you love, whatever that is. For me it's
I
reading, but it
love
could be any
I
any
love
kind of
that.
thing.
Carry a book with you.
Yeah,
I love that. I'm actually gonna tell my 6-year-old what your grandma
it's
told
so
you.
good. It's so
Yeah,
good.
it's so good.
You're never
Not a
bored. You don't
phone,
mind
not
waiting.
a
Yeah, not
screen,
phone. Yes.
a book.
Yeah. A book, a
Yes.
real one.
Yeah. So what book do you have with you right now?
Right now right now I'm reading a book called The Poppy War, which is about it's like a fiction. So I would just,
Okay. The Poppy
a
War.
Poppy War
Okay.
about kind of ancient China.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super
Okay.
interesting. Yeah.
Now, how many books a year do you read? What do you think?
Mm. I am in the 70 plus range.
Wow.
Yeah, I so my wife and I have a kind of reading log that we keep the two of us, and she's
So
always
you don't watch
a
much
little bit.
Netflix.
I do. I have a long commute, so my commute is almost
Oh.
2 hours each way. So it took me 3.5 hours to get into work today,
Oh,
and
good
so I
Lord,
spent a
because of the
lot of it
snow and
because of the
everything.
snow. Yeah, the
Yeah.
trains were delayed, so
Oh,
I spent a good chunk of that time reading, and then I and again maybe just because I was a graduate student in literature, like I can sit and read for if I have it, very long chunks of
right.
time, which like my
Like
wife gets a little bit antsy after an hour, where 3 hours, 4 hours, I have no
you
problem.
can
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Put it keep a book with
Look
you.
at you. Yep.
Okay, so here's our career confession.
Okay.
In complex organizations, every system reflects choices that were never questioned until they fail. So here's the question. What talent trade-offs do organizations most often make by default rather than by explicit design?
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a super good question. I think the number one talent mistake that organizations make is um, hiring someone who has the specific like focusing on the specific experience, whether it's the category that you work in or versus really being focused on someone who has the core capabilities and the um, the flexibility and the ability to learn and do different things and bring different perspectives. I struggle with this sometimes at Estee Lauder companies with a lot of like, well, we want them to come from the beauty industry. Um, and I think I'm always about we have tons of people who know beauty industry. Let's bring in people who have different perspectives, but have the core capabilities, understanding, connection with the consumer, curiosity, all of the things that we know make it work here and
Right.
bring them in.
Like the
And yeah,
attributes.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, again, it's not revolutionary, this idea, but I think it's something we always have to keep in mind because you can sort of default to the sort of playbook, right? Let's
Mhm.
hire the person who has the playbook, who's done this before, who's done. And the reality is, in the world that we're living in today, there is no playbook,
No
right?
playbook.
Everything is changing so fast. There is no playbook. So instead, you really need to hire the player,
Right. Yeah, you need to
right?
hire the
The
person that
person who has
has
the
the
muscles and the ability and
yeah,
right, to
the
adapt, to grow,
creativity,
to pay
innovation.
attention, right? The
Yes.
curiosity,
Yeah.
I talk a lot about the sensing ability. Who are the people that can sense what's coming and what coming means for your business. So who
Right.
can see a trend or see something that's
Right.
happening and know this is what it's going to mean for us,
Right.
for our consumer, for our business, for our channel, for our retail partners that we work with, whoever it is.
Yeah.
That sensing ability is um,
Important.
is really critical. Yeah.
Yeah. And hard to interview for,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah. It
And so
is.
you got to get really
You got
you
to
in
listen
the
to the
interview.
stories, right? You
You
got to
got to
listen to the
listen.
stories.
But you also you have to get really curious and you
Yeah.
have to pull the
Sure.
thread to
Hmm.
like really dig in to see if they have that or not.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Very
Well,
true.
I think that that is a great answer. And when you don't focus on the and it's sort of the DNA of the person,
Yeah.
right? What
That's
they're
right.
passionate about, what they love,
Right.
what their
Character.
values
Yep.
are. Are
Mhm.
they a learner? Are they
Mhm.
not?
Yeah.
Like those are the things that scale or don't scale in your company.
Yeah. And you see those in so many different ways than just the direct question you ask. You see it in how they interact with people. You see it in the questions they ask you,
At so much about the
right?
questions they ask you.
Yeah.
I was talking to a CEO that I coached the other day, and he was saying that it's a small company. And so the final interview is always with him. And that, they've gone through the kind of the gauntlet and they've prepped them and they've given them, all things about the culture and documentation on that and documentation on the business strategy, things like that. And then in the interview, he'll often ask, like, do you have any questions for me?
Right.
And then most often they'll be like, no, I don't have any questions. And it's like, he won't,
What?
and good thing is he never hires any of them. But I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
how,
incredible.
how do you,
How do you
without
not
have,
have questions? Right. I'd have nothing but questions. I would be like,
right.
how much time do you have?
Yeah.
Let's be
Yeah.
clear, because of course, if you're
Yeah.
want to join that company, you should want to know everything you can before you make that decision. What a incredible opportunity to get those questions answered
From
before
the
you join. Yeah,
CEO.
from the CEO. Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
guess what? If you're going into a meeting with any hiring manager, especially a CEO, okay, but any hiring manager, if you're not curious about the job, about them, about the company, you're not going to get the job.
Yep. Never.
Nope, never.
Or if you do, you don't want to work at that company
True.
because they don't have great hiring practices, and so you'll probably be surrounded by a bunch of idiots.
Yeah,
Uh,
true. True. So don't take that job,
yeah,
even if you get it.
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Oh my gosh, Michael, you are so fun, and
Oh,
I'm
thank
so
you.
glad you
This has been
came on
great.
the show. And
Thank you for having
um,
me.
I'm so excited about what you're doing. And again, I know how challenging it is. So if you need anybody, I'm here for you. But it sounds like you're doing incredibly well, and you and Stefan are on an amazing journey. And I can't wait to see what happens in the next 80 years of the
Great.
company. I don't know if I'll be alive by by
But if you
the
will,
end
if
of that.
you'll be looking good, you'll be
I will be looking good because I'm going to be using all the La Mer, all the
all of it.
Clinique, all of
All
it, all of that, all of the Dr. Jart.
yeah, masks.
By
Right.
the way, I love Dr. Jart. It's one of my go-to K
So
beauty brands.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
great. I love it.
Yeah.
Good to
Yeah.
hear.
Yes. So thank you for all that you do. Keep doing it. And hopefully you'll come back on, maybe not in 80 years, but you'll come back on in like a year and
Give an
tell us how
update.
it's
Yeah.
going. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. You're welcome.